Hi, this is Mika. Welcome to Leap Taken. Here at Leap Taken, I talk about all things witchy, craft related, law of attraction, manifesting, esoteric, and everything else in between. And today I wanted to talk about what do you do when you don't have the supplies necessary to do a spell? Now, not even just supplies, but what if you don't have all of the supplies, or you don't have a certain color candle that the spell's calling for, or whatever the situation is. You don't have what you need to do the spell. So what do? Do you just wait? Do you improvise? Do you swap something out? Does that take away the potency of the spell? So that's what we're going to get into today. And I want to start this off just saying that tools, ingredients, all that, they're just to help the mind focus. We are all much more powerful than we give ourselves credit for. Other things are sort of they're adding their energy and or the mental focus. So tools specifically are more about the focusing. The individual organic ingredients, like the oils that we use infused with herbs, or the herbs themselves, the fire element, salt, all that sort of stuff. Yet they do carry energy. Are they beneficial? Yes, I believe so. I do think it's beneficial in doing certain type of workings. Can you accomplish being a successful spellcaster without those things? Technically, yes. Is it easier? And not necessarily easy, but is it easier to have the tools and the ingredients? Yes. If I'll put it to you like this: work smarter, not harder, right? So ultimately, you want to build your witch's pantry. You want to build your magical workings, cabinets and closets with all different types of stuff, so that you're never caught off guard. That's part of practicing witchcraft in a way. Um, you always sort of want to be prepared, so just keep that in mind. But yeah, it is possible to practice without these magical supplies and ingredients. So I'll start, excuse me, with the first example of what if you don't have a certain color? Well, white, if you have a white candle, that typically stands in for all the other candles. So there you go. Use a white candle. Pretty much will stand in for almost everything else. Get fancy in coloring. If you have any food coloring, try to color some of or a portion of it or something like that if you can't do the whole thing. What happens if you don't have any candles at all? Let's say you have some old birthday candles. In a pinch, you can use that. If you have nothing and you're just starting out, or for whatever reason you haven't been able to replenish supplies, or you're not in a position where you can even have supplies, what do? Well, you need to get very sharp and very focused, because you're going to be relying on just your will and your intent, and then staying aligned. Not that you're not doing this anyway, but you're really going to be doing it without the tools or the other things to sort of keep you focused and keep you in that vibration. You're going to have to raise that energy all on your own and maintain it and direct it accordingly. And then again, stay in tune, stay aligned to where that energy is going. It doesn't mean fret, it doesn't mean worry, it doesn't mean doubting if your spell has worked. It simply means staying the course. Like, you're kind of going to be like hyper witch, really extraordinarily focused. It is possible. A lot of us have done this and we don't realize it. Ever hear of the law of attraction? Ever hear of manifesting? That's why I say I talk about all those things, because, in my opinion, they're all very loosely related. Um, to me, on some level, it's sort of practicing witchcraft, because it's the same type of thing. Just different tools and different titles that we're calling things. But um, one of the ways that I know I manifested the very home I'm sitting in right now is I used scripting. So my tool was the notebook and paper. If you don't even have that, you can just play this out in your mind and just keep playing it like a movie in your mind. But basically, what I did was I scripted using I am statements, speaking everything about where I live into existence. And yes, it worked. And yes, it worked. Um, I was able to also use visualization. So I would do visualizing in my head. Again, this no tools, nothing I'm looking at. I'm not even talking about vision boards. Just visualization, just see the things I want, see myself in this made up house that I've constructed in my head. Because my idea, the way I see it is that if I see it, if I can envision it, then it's possible. If I can create it in my mind, it can exist in some fashion. So, certain color schemes, certain textures, and I would typically see myself in a specific room, because it was hard to hold that, and I would try to hold that vision for as long as I could, and see myself actively moving in it, and basically feel it. Like if I touch the counters, I wanted it to be cold, so I wanted to sort of lose myself to the point that I'm not aware of outside, my current sitting environment, whether I'm laying down, sitting up. I wanted to just sort of totally engross myself in this vision. And that takes a lot of focus and a lot of work. Now, that's a huge part of it. So, okay, once I'm there, I've held it for a period of time that I'm comfortable with, how does that manifest into that really happening? Because when I'm done, I've aligned myself to that's my truth. That's where I'm at. That's me. I'm really there. That's something I'm living. The physical me just has to catch up, but I'm already there. It's already done. So mote it be. It's done. I would even, as I'm thinking that, those are the words, as I will it, so it is done. That's the type of thing I would say at the end of a vision. And I would repeat this process as often as possible, sometimes every day. The scripting was helpful that way, but taking those visions and um, really taking the time to focus. And when I mean focus, it's laser focus, meaning somebody could be calling your name and you don't hear them right away. Daydreaming, intentional daydreaming. I would do that. Now, those are some very effective ways to sort of align. And then at that point, once as you go around, and then okay, so back to my example. So this house, right? So obviously, I've now created a goal, of what I want, and I know these desires that I'm putting out there. I know I want it to look a certain way. So, okay, now that I know that's how I, oh, necklace fell off. Sorry, I didn't clasp it enough. Anyway, this is a birthday gift I got for my daughter, guys. It's so pretty. It's aquamarine. It's my birthstone. But anyway, I knew I felt it slipping. I just didn't understand what was happening. But yeah, once you start doing that, once you start totally giving into these intentional visions, because it is intentional, you're not just randomly daydreaming. Once you give into that, what ends up happening is you will notice in your waking conscious life, you start noticing things that take you there. Whether it's something on TV, you see a countertop. In my case, I would be watching some sort of sitcom, and I'm like, that's the backsplash that I envisioned, or the cabinets that I saw in the kitchen, or the type of floors. You're watching HGTV, and somebody renovates a house or buys something, and you see, I saw something that I like, that I was thinking about, and to me, those were messages from the universe letting me know, we hear you, that you're heard, your request is being processed. So I felt positive for that. So I stayed in a state of alignment because I knew it is so. As I willed it, it is so. I put that energy out there. It's coming to me. The only thing that would have interrupted that process, and the same as any spell work, is if I began to doubt it. It's not that maybe I wouldn't have gotten what I wanted. I would have gotten a home. I would have had no choice. I was moving across the country. But would it have been what I wanted? That would have been the issue. I wanted new construction. I wanted all of that, and I got it. But more, that's another thing. I did a video about that before. So visualization, and then let me get back to scripting. So I sort of was visualizing a story. Whether you're talking in this vision or you're just standing there experiencing, feeling the feelings you think you're going to feel when you finally have this thing. So I'm going to switch gears for a moment. So that was, for me, a house. It's easy because I'm constructing it. It's just me. It's in the house. So to something that is a little bit more outside of the, let's say, keeping a job right now. You want to keep your job. We're in the middle of a freaking health crisis in the world, globally speaking, with this COVID-19. So you want to put the spell work out there to keep your job, stay employed, or maybe get employed. So you don't have all the ingredients and everything else to make a spell work, right? You know, for whatever reason, like I said, you didn't have it from the get go, or you have no supplies. So how am I going to do effective spell work? Um, I remember reading some time ago, it was a suggestion that you see yourself with the ingredients, with the tools, with all of the stuff, the fancy altar, everything, the candles. You see yourself. You're basically watching yourself in a movie doing the spell. That takes a lot of work because you really have to, you're using your imagination, but at the same time, it needs to feel very real, you know, because you want to infuse your attention into this vision of you doing all these things. It could be done. It can be done. Some of us are probably a little bit more focused and in tune than the rest of us. That wasn't always a very easy method for me, but I know for some other people that might be good. They can maybe work with that. Kind of just looking at just a visual of something, maybe on your phone on the screen, you see an altar, and then you can see yourself as if that was your altar, and then you can see yourself with all the things you need to carry out the spell that you want to do. Uh, Now, for me, it wouldn't quite work out that way. Well, it could. I would just have to keep practicing. So I don't want to speak negatively. It's possible, but it would be very difficult. And I have the tools and I know it, so I would. Anyway, it would just be very difficult. Let's hope I'm never in a situation where I have to do that. I'd rather it be something I try, not you know, that's all I'm left with because it's very hard. Again, more of the visualization. Do you see yourself, you know, gainfully employed 2 3 months from now in your current position, or do you see yourself in another 2 weeks or a month or whatever the situation is? You know, maybe see a vision of a calendar of you starting the job, you getting dressed for work, and again, the same with the other vision. You want to end it with some sort of declarative statement, as I will it, so it is done, or so mote it be, whatever that is. Um, Definitely do that. Now, another thing is you can actually attempt to make connection without any tools with a specific deity or ancestors and petition them to help you. Now, the first step about doing that is you're going to want to reach out to them, of course, and ask you know, petition. So you need to know if they're willing to do it. So maybe you want to set up some sort of, I don't know, I don't want to say test, but you know, if they could show you some sort of sign, you would ask that, you know, they want to do this. Can they give you some sort of, you know, universal symbol or something to do that? And you're going to have to take what you will with that. Remember, we're not working with tarot cards or any sort of runes or, you know, anything like that. Oh, you could use water, excuse me, assuming you have water, which I was going to get to next, but I'll just jump ahead. If you have water, that's perfectly fine. You can use water as a divination tool and, you know, just kind of gaze into the water bowl. And if you're seeing certain things that attribute to a positive, I would take that as a yes. And then, you know, continue to visualize the spell on what it is, your ultimate outcome. Again, focusing on how you'll feel, your emotions here matter. This is not one of those things where we keep the emotions out of it. Pour your emotions into it. What do you want to feel when you get this thing, the desired goal of the spell? How do you want to feel about it? That's what you focus on. That's the thing that you're going to focus on. So do that. Um, the other thing is, oh, set up a distraction plan. So if you're doing all this stuff that I'm talking about, you're going to want to set up a distraction plan. So for some of us, me, um, who is easily distracted when meditating and, you know, those quiet moments you're supposed to just be still and quiet, it can take some of us a little bit more effort to sort of just totally empty and just be in a moment. This is something I till this day struggle with. You know, it's not that I can't get there. It's just gonna take. You got to give me a minute. You got to give me more than a minute to get there because I am like 50,000 other thoughts are popping through my head and I can't seem to stay focused. So, set up a distraction plan. And one of the ways that I like to use my distraction plan is well, okay, assuming some of those thoughts are negative, because if I get a case of the negatives of the what ifs and the doubts and stuff like that as I'm doing this mental work, I will create a substitution, negative substitution. So I'll think of something pleasant. This completely throws me off course of what I'm intentionally trying to do. But I need to tame these other, thoughts just popping in and forming so quickly before I can get back to everything else. I have to silence them and move them out the way and replace this with something else. So that's what I do. I'll think of something. It could be food, it could be good wine, it could be good company, it could be sex, it could be anything you want it to be. Just whatever it is that makes you not feel negative. The very opposite of whatever that thought is about to put emotions into you. Go the opposite direction. So I'll do that. Now, if it's mundane types of thoughts, but it's just, like, oh, yeah, I gotta go to the bank tomorrow. I gotta do this. And I just start thinking about stuff like that. Sometimes I let it play out. Sometimes you just gotta, I let my mind wander. I let it go. I let it to a certain point, minutes, not like hours, where, it's kind of like an emptying, so to speak, get rid of the junk stuff. And then I do focused breathing. And focused breathing is basically the only thing I'm focusing on is my breath work. Like, seriously, deep inhalation, deep exhales. That's what I'm doing. Very focused. Um, and I'm trying to hold it to a certain point, and I'm focused, only thinking about my breathing. Typically, once I've done that, and sometimes that can take some time, like several minutes. And okay, one, I've drastically reduced my blood pressure and any anxiety or anything like that. That's a good technique just for that purpose alone. But I've now rendered myself in a state of just calm. So those other thoughts typically are silenced at this point. There are times where, especially if I got so much going on, it's still happening. Start it back up again. Controlled breath, intentional breathing. I do that again, and then I'm there, and then I can get on board with whatever it is I'm trying to visualize or focus on or think about. But that's a distraction plan. I know this ahead of time. These are the things that I'm gonna do. Um, if I get too distracted when I'm trying to do this type of working. Um, if you have some tools but not others, like I said before, like with the candle thing, use a birthday candle or something like that. The other thing that you can also do, I'm sure swap out ingredients. Invest in a book on herbs and plants and things like that, so you can understand the metaphysical properties of it. Invest in some sort of literature or something, resource. I mean, you can look things up online, but it's good to have a book, and that way you can mark it up and things like that and take notes, so you can constantly refer to it. Some things, there are quite a few different herbs and plants that we have that from a metaphysical point of view have pretty much the same purpose, and you can substitute it, and a lot of things that you have just in your kitchen cabinet will work just fine. If you have something that's you're doing some sort of prosperity or money spell, and it's cinnamon, but you just ran out of cinnamon, you don't have any more in the house. um, do you have any mint tea? Open up that tea bag and use the mint. Works fine. Do you have any basil? Do you have any dried basil? Same thing. If you don't have basil, but you have the mint, if you don't have basil or mint, but you got the cinnamon, see? Just substitute those types of things and so forth. If, a certain type of oil is used, and you don't have that oil, and it looks like something that has to be purchased because you don't have any of those things that go into oil, look at what the exactly is in that oil, and then make your version of it with what you do have, comparable types of ingredients. Um, I've done this before because let's say I've gone through, probably like the rest of us, I've gotten spell books and gone through, and I don't have half the stuff, and I'm not going to order it, and I want to do the spell right now. So I've substituted what I have and omitted what I didn't have, and maybe I spoke something instead of whatever that ingredient was supposed to add to the spell. I spoke it, I said it out loud, that type of thing. But yeah, that's, a lot of us probably already know you could substitute, but get a good reference, a good book about herbs and things like that to help you, so that in a pinch what else you might be able to use, because especially like protect things for protection. So many different herbs represent, or vegetables. It doesn't have to be herb. Plants in general can be good for protective spell work. Um, so, one might ask, why do we even bother to use tools at all? Magical supplies, if we don't necessarily need them. I kind of gave it away earlier. It's easier. It focuses you, and if the okay, for some of us, the goal might be to, you know, become so good at it, you don't need the supplies, you don't need the tools, you don't need the ambiance, and that's great. Um, for others, the focus is just on doing the spell. You just want that spell to work. You want the desired outcome. So the tools are helpful because they're just helping you get to the desired outcome. All that other stuff in between is not as a big a deal as the outcome. You want the new house, you want the job, the promotion, to keep your job. That's what the outcome is. That's where your focus is, not on, how much of this you can do in your head. So that's why I know and I like the tools. I like the stuff. It helps. It's entertaining. um, also, the funny thing about all this is because energy is different, energy changes. So, what worked before with using tools and things like that may not work again using the same tools. Where's your headspace at? You're carrying a different energy. The space you're in might have a different energy. So it's just, things change. So it is important to, I think, to be able to do magic with or without having supplies and ingredients and all that sort of stuff. I think it is important to be able to do that because things change. You know, sometimes it doesn't feel right to light that candle. You can't put your finger on it, but it's like, I don't think I should be doing this. Doesn't feel right. It feels contrived. It feels forced. It feels not real. So maybe don't do that, and maybe do some of the other things I talked about instead. Maybe that feels real to you, and that's what you need in that moment to practice your magic. All right, and yeah, I think that was pretty much it. Oh, the other thing I just wanted to talk about as far as scripting. Scripting again is a law of attraction technique. That is also considered to me part of my witchcraft because having a special notebook, typically you're going to use a special notebook for your scripting anyway, but having a designated notebook where I'm basically, it becomes a magical notebook. And you can decorate it as so, get something, with a bunch of embellishments on it that makes you feel like it's a magical book, right? With a certain ink only, um, in a certain color. Maybe you color coded anything to do with, material, wealth, money, things like that. You write with a green colored pen or pencil. And maybe for other types of things, love, maybe pink. And, things for, higher self and all that sort of stuff you might want to use. I don't know, blue, intuitive, and all that sort of stuff. So, whatever the story is that you're writing, because just scripting and spell work isn't always about material things. Some of us are honestly trying to lose weight using magic. Some of us are trying to fight down depression and anxiety using magic. Some of us are trying to feel enlightened and to connect with a sense of purpose, and we're using magic to do that. It's not always about, you know, the material things or the worldly things. Sometimes it's more about just the inner work. Some of us just want to feel more like a witch and connect with the concept of witchcraft. So you're doing, workings to connect with something, to connect with a spirit, to talk to your deceased loved one, whatever that situation is. So a lot of that is all, and that's very personal, and a lot of it's going to be using a lot of emotion in your mind anyway. Um, but scripting and writing all this sort of stuff down, and these stories as if they're in present tense, is very powerful. Again, it's a technique that I'm very accustomed to. I use it. I have used it. It has been successful, and I will continue to use that. And I do consider it part of my witchcraft practice. We could say law of attraction. That's fine, but it's for me part of practicing my witchcraft. I really, really, I really suggest trying that if you haven't already. I think it's a powerful tool. I don't know if a lot of people use it. Maybe they don't feel comfortable writing, but you're just writing your story with I am statements. And you just really focus on the emotion. I find that to be one of the easiest ways to do workings without really any tools other than, like I said, a pen and paper. So hopefully this was all helpful. I'm one of those people. I didn't always have the right, or what I thought was the right tools. I didn't think I had all the things, the ingredients of whatever you're supposed to do to be a real witch. There was a time I went through that, so I definitely can understand if you're watching this and you kind of feel like that. Uh, don't discount you. You're really the biggest part of, you are the magic. You're the part that's forcing the energy, and it all starts with your thoughts and your emotions. Please don't this is not one of those things where emotions don't matter and put your emotions in check. No, bring your emotions into it. It drives your spells. All right, again, this is Mika, leap taken. If you've enjoyed the video, go ahead and like, and if you have not subscribed, I'd really appreciate if you subscribe. And if you have, I really, really thank you for subscribing. All right, so thank you guys.